We're live. Welcome to Stronger Through It, episode 00001. My name is Angie, and I have my beautiful, amazing friend, my ride or die from way back when, Diana, with me. And so just a funny story, not funny, but an interesting story is we, oh my gosh, we met in 7th grade.
8th grade, actually.
8th grade? Okay.
No, actually, you're right.
Yeah, 7th grade.
Middle of 7th grade.
Yeah, it was the middle of 7th grade. And I don't even remember how we ended up like hitting it off, but
I do remember, actually.
Okay.
We hit it off in econ class during cooking. We
Really?
were partnered by the teacher.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, your memory's always been better than mine. So we were like inseparable after that.
Yes.
And then life happens.
Yes.
We went through high school, and then, we'll talk about my hiccups. I'll share some of my crazy decisions later on. But anyway, so we managed to graduate high school. And then we kicked off, like adult life together, remember?
Yes, we did.
And then I think shortly after that, maybe like a couple of years after that, I think our lives kind of, we went on different...
On different paths, yeah, for sure.
And 20 years later, life brought us back together. So anyway, I think, we've talked about how we all have different stories and different experiences, and how all those things kind of shape us into becoming, the strong women that we are today. And so I'm so grateful that you want to share your experience. So today is all about your 10-year marriage and really the journey of going through a marriage that was toxic, manipulative, emotionally abusive, and how you ended up kind of coming back to finding yourself through all of that. So how did you meet him?
So coincidentally enough, I was working downtown at the time at that financial firm and going to college. And do you remember good old AOL and their chat rooms?
Yeah. Oh. Yep.
So I had a college friend, and we would always meet up in chat rooms, and we would decide what chat room we would go into, and we would start messing around with people and getting on their nerves. Oh. It was a thing we did. Uh-huh. And then we would eventually get kicked out and go on to another chat room and do the same. So from my understanding on his point of view, he caught on what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And he would follow us from chat room to chat room as we would get kicked off. Because if you went and pointed on the person's name, apparently, and if you were in a chat room, it would tell you, this person's in this chat room. Oh, and you could go look for them. And I guess you could call it voyeurism, because he kind of observed from afar for a couple of weeks. But the whole gist of it is that he said that after, he thought what we did was hilarious, and he liked the drama that we caused, because we did. He looked at my profile, he looked at my pictures, he liked them, and he sent me a private message. I answered back, but I didn't answer his questions initially. I was like, "Who are you?" Yeah. And then he's like, I asked you first. And I was like, "Yeah, but you're the one looking for me." So, and he made a light joke out of it, and then I thought it was funny, so I gave him my info. He gave me his info. And he was pleasant enough. He asked me about my favorite color, if I had family, siblings, all of that. So you went through all the motions through the chat. But I will say that I wish that I would have listened to myself from that very beginning, because I just found it still a little odd. Mm-hmm. I didn't like when he admitted that he was actually looking from afar, and
Yeah, like he was
spying.
yeah,
Yeah.
like being sneaky.
Yeah.
So he was how many years older than you?
He is 10 years older than me.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so what I remember, because we were still like best friends at the
Yes.
time. And I remember that you were very excited after you started talking to him. And, there were I remember there were like flags and things that we had conversations about that I could tell from our conversation that they didn't feel like they didn't sit well with you. But I remember that in that same conversation, you would always kind of come around to finding a positive
Yes.
about the situation. Guy, for the record, I didn't like this guy.
she
I
did
didn't
not
approve
like
of this guy. Okay, so talk to me about the gradual loss of self.
So like I said, we were chatting and everything, and then but he took it really slow. He was never in a rush to meet. He was never even in a rush to talk on the phone. Like, we literally messaged each other for about 3 weeks. Because I really felt like I could talk to this guy, message this guy forever.
So can I ask you something? In those conversations, did he ask a lot of questions? Do you think that what attracted you or kept you kind of hooked in those conversations was his interest to know you?
Yes,
Okay.
most definitely. He wrapped everything to say in a pretty bow, and he made sure that he always came off as interested, and he would even, like, if I would say something and in later weeks he'd be like, do you remember when you said this about your family and blah 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 blah? Because the truth is, most guys, you tell them something and they're not gonna remember 2 or 3 weeks later what you told them, and then you makes you feel like you weren't paying attention. And this was the exact opposite.
And you're 20 years, or you were
22.
22. But okay, so obviously, I think him being 10 years older, it sounds like he knew how to sweep you off your feet.
And then as far as the distance thing, he's like, well, why don't I go to you? If that's such a problem, I'll go to you. And I'm like, why are you trying so hard? And then he's like, because I really want to get to know you. I think you're a great person through your pictures. I think you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, or is it that those pictures are not you? And then I said, no, they're me. And he goes, well, prove it to me. And then he kind of got into my head with the whole, that's not really you.
So he manipulated.
Yeah.
This. So that was like a flag there. Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of the other flags? Like, once you guys engaged in a relationship, what were some of the other things that you think you maybe justified?
That I swear to you, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. In turn, narcissism, I believe that any narcissist could be a great salesperson.
Oh, I agree.
He would just take those little things and kind of like work him into his favor. With that, I started justifying. Example, he never came out my way to meet me.
Okay, so then you go into this relationship, and then you end up marrying this guy.
Yes. And the thing of it all is, even before the marriage, he love bombed me for about 4 months straight.
So you say he love bombed you. So
Yeah.
give me a couple of examples.
The whole sending me flowers at work, calling me every morning, calling me every night, just to quote unquote check up on me. Remembered my birthday, he took me out to a really beautiful dinner, and he when I would come over, he would cook dinner for me. Like, he was always just
full on attention to you. And did he propose after that?
No.
Okay.
I think the mistake that I made was because of so much love bombing, so much attention. I said I love you first.
Okay.
He never said it. I said it. And when I said it to him, I remember very clearly, I told him that I loved him. He just smiled and he kissed me, and he never said it back. But I guess I was so in love that it would, it went, I saw it and it was like, he'll say it eventually or something. That's, 6 months into the relationship was the first time he cheated. I didn't want to seem nosy. I didn't want to seem like I...
So you didn't ask anything?
No, I didn't ask anything. I didn't ask anything because I didn't want to start that. And
like you didn't want to come across as jealous or immature.
Yes,
or any, like,
exactly.
Yeah,
because you're with a man who's like 10 years older than you.
Right, who has proven,
yes,
quote unquote, like that they are so in love with you, and then you start thinking about all the time that they spend with you, and you
and all the things he's done for you,
Yeah.
and like how, like, I mean, he would even, like, when I would go over to his house, like, literally he would look at my car, change my oil, like, make sure my car was okay. And, you know, at that time, you're like, where are you going to find a guy like that?
Right. Like, yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah, they don't. So, you know, those became more of a justification than the red flags. And the red flags just kind of like, they were shrugged off because these are all the great things he's doing.
Right. Like you feel like you're compromising on these small things because he's doing all these wonderful things for you. So, okay, fast forward. So you go through that. Like now you know that was the first instance that he was unfaithful.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times he was unfaithful in the time that you guys were together?
I think it must have been like a constant thing. If we're not getting married, then there's no real commitment here, and I'm going to walk away from it. Because I do want to get married. That's where I stood. I wanted to get... I think that's how I also got myself into trouble. Because I really, really did want to get married. Yeah. I wanted that fairy tale wedding. I wanted a party. I wanted that. And I wanted to show, like, look how much we love each other. But I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to sound like I don't love myself, but that's not it. It's just that the reality of it all is I was so dumb and so young, and like...
I think we were so immature and we were so desperate
Yeah.
for live life quickly because I feel, anyway.
And I agree with that, but like to a certain point, like that's what you do when you're in love and when you're committed. That's the next step. Like, why isn't the next step happening? You know, that step was so important to me. And so like I shoved the resistance to the side just to get what I wanted, you know. And so that cost me. That mistake cost me. So we end up getting married. And to tell you the truth, we ended up getting married at...
like the courthouse?
The courthouse. And then we had lunch. And it wasn't even a thing, like...
It wasn't like a celebration that, like what you expected. Even if it would have been a simple celebration.
It's nothing.
Like you wanted to see maybe more joy and more like of a celebration.
My parents weren't even there. Nobody was there. It was just me and him.
So then, okay, year 1 through 3, was it like a roller coaster? Was it a great, the first 3 years?
The first year was great. Like after we got married, he changed, I guess. Like he wasn't coming home on time after work. He was always like, I gotta go to the bar. I gotta do this. And then I found out that he was actually cheating because he had a hickey.
Yeah.
And he couldn't explain it away. Me, out of my pride, and I'm like, she's not taking my man away, I didn't leave when I should have.
And that was right around year 2.
Yeah, year 2.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about some more of the emotional abuse.
Part of the emotional abuse was the cheating, the screaming, the fighting, and it was always like, well, you give me no privacy, this is what happens to you, type of thing.
So it was a consequence.
That's how it was justified for him.
Do you feel like he isolated you from your family? Or
Yes.
kind of
He would say, like, go visit your mom, go visit your parents. Fine, I would go visit my parents. But when I would come back, he would explode. You took too long. What were you doing? Were you really with them? Like, why did you have to spend 5 hours over there? You didn't text me once. You didn't check up on me. And then every time for Christmas, New Year's, any family gathering, he never went to. It was always no. And don't force me to go. Don't do that to me, blah, blah, blah. And then when it was for his family, sometimes he wouldn't take me and he'd be like, no, I'm going by myself. My brother's going, I'm going by myself, and we need some guy time, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. And when he did take me, he would grudge all the way over there. He was upset that I was going. and he got upset, like the connection that me and his mother had.
So you earned her like appreciation, her
Yes.
love, and her respect. So that was, and he didn't like that.
No, he did not like that.
Okay. And then so you were still working at the time, like, and I know you were doing very well. What about from a career perspective? Did he have a problem with you, like, advancing at work, or?
He didn't have a problem with me advancing at work. What he did have a problem was when I traveled, or when I had events, or when that was his biggest issue.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think, especially with someone that seemed like he was very okay being independent, why do you think that he had an issue with you being gone?
I think it's because of his own cheating. I just always feel like he placed it on, like, well, if I'm doing it, you have to be doing it too. And that was another thing. Even like when his friends would come over and I would start having a conversation with one of his male friends. They would leave. They're like, "Oh, you were very chummy with him. Do you like him?
Oh, wow.
Because if you want, you can go with him." And so I was like, I was like, I can't win with you. Like,
yeah. I think we were talking about like how little by little we start shrinking. We go into this little corner because everything that you do seems to be the wrong thing to do. You mentioned also earlier that like he would make comments that were insulting.
yes. Like, for example, he would be like, that dress looks okay, I guess, but it would look so much better if you lost a little bit of weight. Like, you got a little bit of chub there going on, girl. You should watch what you're eating, girl. Or he would, one time when I got a promotion and I was so excited and I told him, and he was just like, about time. He's like, how long did it take you? Like, because usually people move up the ladder quicker than that. Or one time in front of his mother, I remember I was washing the dishes. His parents had come over to visit us. We had just had dinner. I was washing the dishes. And he literally left me there to go bike riding with one of his girlfriends in front of his parents. And right before he left, his mom's like, the least you could do is help her wash dishes. She did help me cook. And then he goes, why? He's like, I got my little dishwasher right there. And he pointed at my hands. And I just never wanted to make a scene in front of his parents because, when you're that young, you're like, I wanted to look perfect. But now that I think back on all of that, his parents must have felt so sorry for me. And I'm pretty sure they knew.
Yeah. So, breaking point. What was your breaking point? How far into your marriage were you at that point?
Year 7, and it was a combination of things. It was one of my friends actually at the time who just basically said, girl, like, how long are you gonna keep holding on? Like, you cry so much and this is not the person I knew. He's like, 5 years ago I still could have told you that was you, but you are just through the motions type of thing, like on autopilot. I remember my excuse was like, it's just exhausting to be with someone who's so high maintenance. And she said to me, he's not high maintenance, he just doesn't give a shit about you.
Yeah.
And so that hurt. Like, that hurt because everybody said it in a nice way.
Yeah.
In a way where you could take it. But she actually said, he doesn't give a shit about you.
Face. You were trying so hard to make sure that people around you like saw only perfection.
Yeah, I would stay quiet. Or I would just kind of walk away and talk to somebody else. There was a time where I had lost 30 pounds. I think I was at like my skinniest at the time. So proud of myself. Yeah. And one of his friends, the wife, she hadn't seen me in a couple of months. And she's like, oh my God, you look so amazing. Girl, like, I'm so proud of you. Excuse me. Yeah. All these compliments. And I'm like, thank you so much. And he came up and then he's like, she could do better.
Oh, wow. So it's just never enough.
Yeah.
So, okay, year 7, you start disconnecting. You start kind of like, you started to give up.
Yes.
And then he picked up on that.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, wait a minute. She can't go anywhere. So then he started trying harder.
Yes.
Okay.
He started trying harder. And again, like for a year, we were happy. We were happy. And I always used to ask myself, like, why can't it always be this way? Obviously, he has the capacity to do this.
Yeah.
Why can't it always be this way? But he also noticed that I didn't change much with his changes. I mean, at surface level, I was like, thank you, honey. I love you.
Right. Like you stopped really caring and you stopped reacting.
Yes.
So like if he was a jerk, like at that point you were like, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't care. And he started picking up on that.
Yes. Like, I wouldn't pick fights anymore. And so then that's when he started trying harder. And then when he noticed that even still when he was trying harder, like everything was all surface level, he started accusing me of cheating, like I was doing something.
Okay, so you make a decision. You come to a point where you're like, I'm done. So before we get to that, just very quickly, we've had this conversation. Why sometimes we hold on too long? Why, like, what was it that you were struggling with? Because clearly you didn't appreciate being cheated. You didn't appreciate being treated the way that he was treating you. And you had enough evidence that he could only hold up his end of the commitment for so long. Why stay?
I stayed because of the vows I made, because I believed in them, because I thought that that's what you did.
Yeah.
I took that wholeheartedly, and to me that was a promise worth keeping.
Yeah.
I wanted a lifetime.
Yeah.
And eventually even that promise crumbled, and I let it crumble to the point where I said, right now, like year 7 was the year where I said, you know what, I did everything I could.
Yeah.
I did absolutely everything I could. I don't know what else I could do to make this work. I couldn't find another answer to stay anymore. I couldn't find another, if I do this, maybe if I do that, I was out of it. And so I remember like thinking one night, but your promise. And I'm like,
he would use that though,
yes,
right? He would, so some part of it, yes, it comes from you naturally, but it's also something that he brought up to you or would throw on your face constantly, like to use to manipulate you. So that echoed in your mind.
That promise echoed in my mind. And so, you know, it always stayed with me for better or for worse, for better or for worse. And another thing that stayed with me, God, I can't even think about it right now, but there's this verse in the Bible that when you get married through the church, they use it's the whole for better or for worse. You know, love never fails.
Yeah.
That whole verse of love never fails. That's what stayed with me, and that's what I kept fighting for. And it wasn't, because you have to realize, I knew it, I just didn't want to accept it, that it takes two, not one.
Right. Yeah.
And I kept saying to myself that my love would be enough.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And it never was from the beginning. It never was. And so that's the reason why I stayed. But then when I knew for sure that I was out of options, that there was no more reasoning, that I did everything I could do, I knew then, right then and there, that if I walked away, I walked away guilt-free.
Right. So you make a decision, and then you knew that this decision meant that you had to walk away and really leave everything behind. Because you for the sake of expediting and, you know, detaching from this relationship, quickly, you pretty much gave everything up, like from a material perspective.
Yeah.
That you had put in for 10 years. So talked about your exit earlier. So you mentioned called your mom.
Yes, I did. I called my mom. I didn't explain to her exactly what the situation was. I just kind of, my parents don't know till today, like, how bad
Okay.
the situation was, how isolating it was. I just explained to her that things weren't working out, that we were fighting a lot, and that it was, I did mention to her, I think I did mention to her that it could get physical pretty soon. I need to know, can I come home?
Yeah.
She's like, okay.
So you shared for 3 weeks. For the following 3 weeks, you just started to,
slowly move my stuff out without him knowing.
You move your stuff, and then you shared, that's where we left off, that you went and took your key to him.
Yes.
And so he was shocked because he was totally not expecting you making this decision.
Yes.
What did he say to you?
If you leave me, he's like, you're never going to make it without me.
Wow.
Like, he was pretty sure that he was, and he was right. He was my whole world at one point in my life.
Yeah.
But when we were there, he was no longer that.
So the healing process, like post that decision, what was that healing process like?
The first 3 months, they were amazing. Like, I felt free. I wasn't walking on eggshells. After 3 months, I did finally serve him the divorce papers. Oh, he was calling me, swearing on the phone, calling me a whore. Like, you're gonna be nothing without me. Like, yeah, you make money, but not as good as I do. You have a good living because of me. Like, you ask for shit and I give it to you.
Yeah, like, how dare you leave me, basically. Yep.
Yeah. And I left him. I decided also to change jobs and change careers. I wanted to do real estate, but the main reason why I had to leave was because he was bothering me at work too.
So even after you left him, you still had to deal with his anger, his, like you still had emotional abuse post leaving him. Okay, so how do you find Diana back after a journey like that?
Well, I didn't really find her until, the last time I saw him was get divorced at the courthouse, but it was more like in a meeting room. That was the last time I saw him. And I knew right then and there, I was like, oh God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't. So I told my lawyer, I was like, I want nothing. Whatever I have with me now is my personal property.
Yeah.
I want nothing. I was like, I just want my car, because I bought that out of my own money.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want my car. He can keep the house. He can keep everything. And he just was like, what the hell? Like,
yeah. Like, wow.
It didn't catch on to him that I was desperately trying to leave him behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost everything. And like I said, the first 3 months were great. But then little by little, it started creeping in. Like, I started realizing, like, oh my God, I'm living at my mom's house again. Like, I found another job. I took a pay cut because I was already at that job for a long time, and like things just kind of closed in on me for a little while. Like, nothing was working out. And I just got into like this huge depression. Like, and even for a moment, I did sit there and think, and I was like, dang, he's right. I am falling apart. I am nothing without him now.
Wow. Like, think of the extent of that level of manipulation and abuse, like emotional abuse. Like, even after all of that, like, his words still
They stuck.
stay. Yeah.
They stuck. They stuck and they hurt. They
Yeah.
stung. And it got to the point where I was just like, I threw so much of my life away. Like, in my mind, it replayed over and over, like, all the things I did, all the sacrifices I took, all the things that I put up with. And then in the end, it was like, you have nothing to show for it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that broke me. It devastated me, and I couldn't get past that. And then it got to the point where, like, I remember going to the doctor, and I remember, because I wasn't sleeping, like, all of this stuff just kept replaying in my head, and I wasn't doing well emotionally, but I just told the doctor that I was having a hard time sleeping. He gave me sleeping pills. I started taking them. I was sleeping. I felt better. But the dread of starting over again, like, the dread of feeling like all my friends are married and happy, and like some of them got divorced, but like they're still living their normal lives. Like they're not starting from zero. Like
Yeah.
I felt like I fell behind.
Yeah, like you took steps back. Yeah.
Huge steps back.
Yeah.
Like, and I felt like I couldn't get it together, and I was drowning. And in my desperation of that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Like I like literally was like, I messed up. I messed up so much that I can't fix it.
So you started regretting your decision. Wow.
Yeah. I did. And then it got to the point where I was just like, I just want to end it all. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I failed. I failed at life. And so one day I went to the doctor. I lied to him and I told him that I lost my sleeping pills on a work trip. And he didn't want to give them to me, but I was like, please, I need them because I do sleep well. And like, I'm not abusing them. I need them to sleep, and I lost them. And so he gave them to me. But those pills were not because I lost them. Those pills were because I had decided, like, I'm done. Like, this is it. We're done. But funny enough, the day that I decided to do that, my cousin had a puppy, and she was pregnant, and she called and she's like, I like this dog, but because I'm pregnant, I can't stand the smell of her poop. I just gag and throw up every time. I can't. She's like, and I know, like, that you're good with dogs and you're gonna be okay. Like, she's gonna be okay with you. Come and take her. And I was like, I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take her. And I don't know what the dog did to me, but like the day that I brought her home, it was like the first time in a long time that I felt happy. And it was love. And it felt real. And if it wasn't for her, like, I wouldn't be here today.
Luna saved your life.
Luna saved my life. So for someone going through it, don't let yourself become isolated. Don't make somebody your world. Put yourself first. Love yourself first. And if you're already in a situation where you are isolated, where that person makes you feel guilty about spending time with your families, about spending time with your friend, you have to remember something, and this is what I always take with me. A person who's constantly telling you, whatever happens between me and you stays between me and you. You should not be talking to our relationship about anyone. That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
And when a person is so desperately trying to hide something, that's how they're going to attack you.
Yeah.
By telling you that, by telling you this stays between me and you. Nobody should know about our relationship. Nobody needs to know what's going on in our relationship, because that's a huge form of control.
I think the other thing is for young girls and just women, period, like, we have to be so careful with this whole love bombing, because it really, especially for women, we tend to connect emotionally first, right?
Yes.
I think the physical is always something that's important to us, but emotional connection, like,
means everything.
Yes. So I think a lot of times if someone love bombs us to the point where they can use that to manipulate us, right? Because they're in that process, they're trying to also create this fantasy that they are perfect. So anything that they do to hurt you after that, like, kind of going back to your story, we justify. We're like, oh, but, you kind of go back to like all the great things. And while there is compromise, but we should never compromise ourselves to the point where we are losing ourselves.
Yes.
That's not compromise. That's manipulation.
Yes, that is definitely true. And I would say that for those of you that are going through it, the first and most important step that you can take is talk about it with somebody.
Yeah.
Get the perspective of somebody else. because isolation is not your friend, it's your enemy.
You have to get to a point where you, like you said, you come to confront the fact that there's nothing else that you can do to try to change that person.
Yeah.
Or their behavior or their choices, because they're really choices.
And the other thing too that I want to say is that just keep in mind that everybody goes through something, always.
Yeah.
Nobody's life is perfect, no matter how this person paints it for you.
Yep.
So there shouldn't never be shame, because that's another thing too. Shame, the shame of like giving up, the shame of feeling like you're a loser because you didn't follow through. That's not true.
Or you're back, like you have to start all over again.
Exactly.
I mean, in a sense, it's like a perception thing. Like it's really not real, because you're starting with a whole lot more experience.
Yeah, and there's no shame in giving up on something that in your heart you know is not working.
And it's unhealthy and it's killing you.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.